Tech Talk Tuesday.
Tech Talk Tuesday. Tech Talk Tuesday. You mean Thursday.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a 10-minute Tech Talk Thursday. My name is Michael Weir. I'm the Fortinet NSE7 Certified Technical Account Manager for Fortinet here at Ingram Micro, and I'll be happy to take you through this today. Today's topic is going to be crafting a good guest firewall policy. This is how a lot of people's guest network looks. Welcome! Our guest network is here for your convenience, and no one is monitoring it. We want to have that guest network there so that people can come and they can go into our shop and they can use what they're going to expect to use in most places, which is some form of wireless. And this is the reason people often look at for various security policies. For employees, obviously, number one concern for employees is network security, and we achieve that through some things like enforcing acceptable use policies, segregating users and resources, and otherwise providing security without pain. Now, for guests, most people think a little differently. They still want to enforce acceptable use policies, but they also want to block people off from all resources that are internal and provide a convenient service, and that's where the thoughts tend to end. I would say we need to add the first concern from our employee list over to our guest list, which is networking security, and then we make this a secured convenience. Here's the problem with having an insecure guest network. This is a perfect attitude for hackers to exploit. There's open paths, there's open protocols, and there's tools galore you can get online, whether it be hardware bought off Amazon or tons of programs even just off hacker forums, to exploit that wireless network to get in and look at your resources. Now the solution, I think, is the guests need the tightest filters of all. They need to have minimal paths, they need to have minimal protocol access, and they need to have tight web filtering. Now, some people would say, oh, but I have them a different subnet. Well, it's relatively easy to subnet hop. That's not really a defense anymore. That's a convenience for your networking topology. But that's not what we're talking about in this case. It's a component, but it's not what we're talking about. So, let's see it in action. All right, so what we're going to do here is demonstrate this looking in FortiGate. So this FortiGate is set up as a hypothetical business, and it's not geared toward one specific vertical or anything like that. But you can go through and see a lot of useful policies here. Now I am going to log in using my fanciful job definition. And what you can't see off screen right now is that I'm entering my FortiToken number off of my phone, my FortiToken mobile, which is something that everybody should have for added security. Now I'm going to ignore the fact this is managed by a FortiManager because obviously the best thing to do when you're dealing with security is to ignore the warnings. So there's a little bit of stuff I've already set up in here. So we're going to be working as though we have a guest wireless network. And I've already set up that SSID. It is named guest. I'm having it broadcast as FBI Van 2 to mess with my neighbors. But that's what we have here, and we're going to take and put in some policies for that will improve both security and guest access. So let's hop into security profiles. All right, so first let's make a guest antivirus profile. Well, guest AV. Now, in terms of inspected protocols, obviously, we want to put AV on here, not leave it alone, just because viruses do have the ability, some of them, to subnet hop and that sort of thing. But we're only going to scan HTTP, and we'll get to that why in a second there. But we are going to do a few other things here. We're just going to say we still want a sandbox because 0 days, ransomwares, that kind of thing can sneak in this way. And if you've got a FortiSandbox or connection to a FortiSandbox or FortiSandbox Cloud, always use the database. It's a free service available to you, sends out micro updates, adds an extra layer of security. Now you might be asking yourself, why did we not scan all those other protocols? Well, we'll get to that when we're under application control. Let's talk about web filtering. Now obviously a big section of web filtering is going to be based on acceptable use policies as your organization has chosen in a lot of these different categories. Always block your security risk. Depending on the nature of your business, you may or may not want to block an unrated website. If you're a small business whose website comes back as unrated, obviously you'll not want to put anything here. But if you're a larger business, you can easily put a filter here. Also, if you're a place like a car dealership, it might behoove you to make a redirect for people trying to go to opposing websites from opposing car dealerships to price shop you. Either way, what we're going to do right now is we're just going to look at some bandwidth consuming things. And obviously we always want to block peer-to-peer because peer-to-peer is just a terrible idea. It's like walking into a place that's full of sick people and letting them lick you. And we're also going to put a limit here on, no, let's do freeware and software download. So I'm going to put a monitor on that. You might say, what does that really achieve? This is what it achieves. In a FortiGate, anything that you're monitoring can be taken and put into a category usage quota. Now we are doing a very unsophisticated version of this, and we're doing only time or traffic. Obviously, if you're using actual traffic shaper, this could get much more in detail. We're going to give them 2 gigs a day. This is, once again, this is really kind of an impractical show. You should use real traffic shapers, but I'm doing this to show one way you can do things. So we've got our category usage quota right there. This is a twist thing too. If you think perhaps your employees are going to connect to this, you could allow users to override block categories. I wouldn't do that if you were just on a guest network, because all it takes is somebody getting a username and password, and then voila, everything's overridden. We don't really need a file filter either. Search engines, these are things that you could also use to enforce acceptable use, but it could be interesting to log all search keywords just to see what your customers are searching for. All these other things right here. Always use your FortiSandbox, always block invalid URLs, because that's how some things can try to get by. And once again, the rest of this comes down to what's in your acceptable use policies. So there we go. We have our guest AV policy. Haha, look at that. I named the web filter AV just like the first one. Whoopsies. Much better. DNS filter, once again, this is going to reside mainly in your acceptable use policies. And look at this. I'm naming it the right thing this time. Always want to redirect your botnets though. Other than that, this is totally up to you. Application control. This is one people might not think about so much when it comes to things that are going to be on a guest network. This is a place where it's really important to do network protocol enforcement. Some people discount this, but something that a lot of hackers and other malactors can use is to try to do things over non-standard ports to hide them. So we're going to say port 80 is only going to have HTTP traffic. Everything else is blocked. We're going to say port 443 is only allowed to have our HTTPS traffic, and everything else is blocked. We're going to OK both of those. And voila. Now we've got a nice secure application filter policy. And once again, for intrusion prevention here, a lot of this is going to be based on your acceptable use policies and that kind of thing. Really the best thing to do in this case is we're going to block outgoing CNCs, and then for creating new, I just go through here and do my usual high and medium level filters. Alright, so we've got this all put together. Now let's make it into a policy, because everything in a FortiGate works on policies. So we're going to go in and we're going to create a policy. I'm going to call it guest Wi-Fi, just for ease of use right there. Incoming interface is going to be our confusingly named guest Wi-Fi, and the outgoing interface is going to be SD-WAN. Now, for those of you who have multiple WAN connections where you're doing any sort of traffic direction here, it's recommended that you take your guest Wi-Fi and put it over whatever your least expensive worst SLA connection is. Save the good stuff for your employees. Now, I'm definitely going to specify the source address as being guest Wi-Fi. That's the group I made to go with that Wi-Fi address. Our destination is going to be all. Now service, we're going to reflect back again on what I said about only scanning certain protocols. And I mentioned the fact that I didn't really care what protocols we were scanning when we were doing the mail, and I enforced those 2 things in my application control. Those are the only ones I'm going to allow through here on the service as well. But we are going to install all of our policies here. There we go, we've made ourselves a beautiful tunnel. Now that we've seen it in action, our call to action is make strong guest policies, even stronger than those in your employee network. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My name is Michael Weir. I work at ingrammicro.com, so there's my email address and my work phone number. Let me know of anything you need. We'll be happy to help, and have yourselves a good day.